before diving in and talking about the latest news, or maybe kind of lack thereof, there really hasn't been that much, although there was enough to make some people panic yesterday. A few hearts stopped. I want to recommend a video by Dr. Peter Kieft that I recently found. My friend Daniel posted this on my Facebook. It's an hour long, but it is well worth your time if you're into Narnia, and especially C.S. Lewis. He just talks about the worldview of C.S. Lewis that we see in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Every time I read these books, I pick up on more. And I think he so gets it right. What he's talking about. He talks about the theme of longing, which is one of the more important things to me, and he's got I highly recommend it. I recommend it because a lot of this stuff isn't all that new if you're a fan of C.S. Lewis, but he compares it to the Dawn Treader movie. So I am posting the link in the description. Click it soon and watch it. I think it's well worth your time. It's really interesting. But as far as what's going on with the Narnia movies, basically nothing has happened, I think, in the last month or a little bit more, I guess, since I made my last video. The big story that stopped a few hearts yesterday was a little bird whispered in Narnia Webb's ear. Someone said, "Oh, it looks like Walden has pulled out of the franchise. That they decided they're not going to make any more." And then some more reports came out and said, "Oh no, Walden's saying that they're still in negotiations. They're still pursuing this." Really, the sense I get is that probably depends on who you ask. Fox, Walden, whoever. It depends on who you ask what the status is. That just sounds to me like, well, they're still trying. And maybe some are more optimistic than others about their chances of actually getting it made anytime soon, at least. It's not that if you want a fourth Narnia film, I just think the situation is not encouraging. It sounds like, it's been over 6 months since Voyage of the Dawn Treader hit theaters. It's been on DVD for a couple months now. And the situation, and by the way, I still have not bought the DVD, but the situation still seems to be a bunch of business executives sitting around going, well, gosh, what should we do now? A month ago, Flaherty revealed that no script for The Magician's Nephew exists. And he even said that we haven't actually decided if we're making Magician's Nephew or Silver Chair next. Now, I think what he's really saying there is that there's nothing on paper. Nothing has been signed that says that nothing has been set in stone that we are making The Magician's Nephew next. But privately, I'm sure he knows 99.99% certain the next Narnia film, if there's another one, will be The Magician's Nephew. He also says, let me just briefly talk about that interview. It was a podcast interview. And another interesting thing he said was his excuse for Dawn Treader's less than awesome box office was, people are just so busy at Christmas time. I'm not going to waste too much time talking about this on this channel. It's a silly argument to say people were so busy at Christmas time they just couldn't make it to the movies. Since when did Christmas time become a poor release date? Apparently people weren't too busy to go see The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's completely silly, what he's saying here. It doesn't hold any water at all. I mean, leading up to Dawn Treader, it was all about, oh wow, Dawn Treader's got a much better release date than Prince Caspian. It's got the same week as Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, in fact. So it's got a much better chance. And now he's saying, oh no, the problem was it was released at Christmas time. Completely silly, of course. I think this is just sort of PR nonsense. I don't think he really believes this. He also talked about the darkness of Prince Caspian. I would fundamentally agree with him that Prince Caspian is a darker book than Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was appropriate to make it a darker story than Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think Caspian, the movie, did a pretty good job on the sadness of the old days being gone, the longing for them to return, but I think it failed on the joy when they did return. That's why I overall liked the first two acts of Prince Caspian. The end leaves me feeling kind of hollow. The third act is by far the weakest part of Prince Caspian. It's interesting, when I posted that news on Narnia Web, my thinking was, oh, this is really going to make a lot of people happy. Most fans, the fans who want to see a fourth Narnia film, overwhelmingly, over 80%, want to see The Silver Chair over the Magician's Nephew. So I'm thinking, oh, they're going to be happy about this. And the reaction turned out to be people were discouraged about the possibility of seeing a fourth Narnia film at all. Because I think the reaction was, wait a minute, 6 months after Dawn Treader's come out and they don't even know which one they're making next? And I think that's where we're at right now, is they've just, and this, Tyrion basically said as much in his update on Narnia Web, that, well, the negotiations have just kind of stalled. And we're just sort of waiting for something to happen. Do I want to see a fourth Narnia film made? Minotaur, I can kind of echo a lot of Minotaur's thoughts that he posts. I'm going to post this as a video response to his video. If you'd have told me a year and a half ago Dawn Treader is going to be the last movie, I would have gone, oh man, I would have been really disappointed. Now, much less so. And it's not because I really hated the Voyage of the Dawn Treader movie. I mean, that's part of it. And it's not just that I think they'd probably do a poor job on a fourth film. Actually, a good Narnia buddy of mine said if Flaherty thinks that The Magician's Nephew is not as, or if he thinks that it's not as dark as the Silver Chair, we may be in trouble. I would tend to agree with that. I might think that the Magician's Nephew, with the whole thing with Diggory and his mother especially, is a darker, more serious story than the Silver Chair. But the bigger reason that I think it would be a bad idea to make a fourth Narnia film, at least anytime soon, is that the internal situation does not sound good right now. It just sounds like they can't really agree on anything. It sounds like there's no unified vision at this point. Even with Don Treader, I really get the sense, just watching the Don Treader movie, I've said many times that I felt like it was directed with apathy, or aptithy, the term some people have used. It sounds to me like most of the major creative decisions made on Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the movie, were compromises. Unlike Wardrobe and Caspian, especially Wardrobe, I think, where Adamson had this vision. Walden Media got excited, Disney got excited, the C.S. Lewis estate got excited, fans got excited, and everyone kind of got behind Andrew Adamson and said, yeah, let's help you make your vision a reality. I don't think that happened on Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I think there were cases where maybe Apted wanted to do one thing and Fox wanted another and Walden wanted another, and they all kind of compromised and met in the middle. I don't think there were many decisions made on Dawn Treader where everybody was going, yeah, that's cool, let's do that. It was all compromise. It was all, oh, you want black, I want white, let's do gray. And that's why Dawn Treader feels like such a half-hearted film to me. There's also a lot of talk going around there's more talk than I thought there would be about the possibility of a reboot. And people have, it's funny, the range of feeling that people feel about reboots is pretty big. You know, some people hate the idea of reboots, some people don't mind them at all. Some people love them. I do think that fans have gotten greedy about them. Like, there's this sense, oh, they got this one character wrong, they got this one thing wrong. Oh, just reboot, just start over. It'd be rebooting forever if we would do it over and over until we got it perfect, you know? But it's interesting. One thing I've been... not sure if I said this on this channel or not, but The Magician's Nephew, if they made it next, I think would effectively be a reboot. They could easily do that. I think it could easily be what I call a requel. Not a prequel, not a reboot, but a requel. Where it's kind of a reboot and a sequel at the same time, or in this case, a prequel. Say Superman Returns, for example, is a good example of something that is kind of a remake and a sequel at the same time. It's technically in continuity, but it's very much a remake at the same time. Different actors, different look, you know, so many things are different. I would be tempted to call X-Men First Class a requel. Clearly, it's supposed to be in continuity with the other movies, though they make some huge errors in continuity at the same time. But it's just kind of a different tone, different thing. You know, it performs the function of a reboot, even though technically it's still in continuity with the other movies. First rule of a reboot is that you don't call it a reboot if you're a studio. You're vague about it. Even the Spider-Man reboot that is coming out next summer with Andrew Garfield playing Peter Parker, Marvel's trying to say that, oh, it's not really a reboot. You know, baloney. Of course it's a reboot. Because they don't want to alienate the people who would like to see a Spider-Man 4, but they don't want to alienate the people who want to see a total reboot either. They want to try to say, well, it's kind of both, you know, so they're vague about it. Magician's Nephew, they could easily do that. I mean, Liam Neeson, Tilda Swinton. That's it. That is the only thing that says this is definitely in continuity. Everything else, they're free to do whatever. They don't have to be tied down. They're not tied down by any actors or any kind of tone or anything. You know, they could just do their own thing. So Magician's Nephew could essentially be a remake and a prequel at the same time. So I think that's one of the things that might attract them to it. Or they could reboot it for real. Maybe in a few years, this is what I think might happen. It wouldn't surprise me if in a few years, maybe another studio comes along. Maybe not Walden, maybe not Fox, maybe someone else. I don't know. Comes along and says, reboots with The Magician's Nephew, starts over completely, and if it's really successful, would move on to reboot, even doing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe next. There's all kinds of things they could potentially do. And we'll just have to see what happens. At the moment, again, I would prefer they not make a fourth Narnia film just because it sounds like the internal situation is really bad. Is one going to be made? I don't think anytime soon. I would be surprised to hear anything concrete before the end of the year. If I had to put money on it, I would say we probably won't see another Narnia film greenlit in the next few years. We might see another one, a few years later. And it's interesting. Another question that has come up that Fantasia Kitty kind of raised in her report is, could another studio pick it up after Walden? There was always a lot of discussion, could the series survive without Disney? I don't recall there being a lot of discussion about could it survive without Walden. Wouldn't that be interesting? Like, what if Warner Brothers wants it after losing Harry Potter? Another factor I hadn't really considered is that how much of a factor could the Hobbit films be? Maybe the fact that maybe the studio will say, well, maybe there's going to be this reemergence in interest in fantasy movies again for the Hobbit. Kind of a depressing idea because the Narnia films were only greenlit when they were because they wanted to lick the crumbs of the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter franchises. Be kind of sad if the fourth film was only made because, oh well, The Hobbit's being made. Come on, guys, let Narnia be its own thing. At the moment, under the present conditions, I really don't think they should make a fourth Narnia film. I would prefer they not make one.